Hello, YouTube viewers. Hopefully you can hear because there's a air purifier in the room, but I don't think it's too intrusive. But anyway, I was thinking of making a quick video or rebuttal to a certain apologetic defense of God, theodicy used by theist standard classical theists like Christians and Muslims and Jews, I suppose, but those who believe in the God that is the personal creator, anthropomorphic, giant mind, and in deliberate, intentional creator of the universe, and has the characteristics, usually omnipotent, omniscient, which is all-knowing, and omnibenevolent, all-loving, and throw in omnipresent, I guess you could as well. This particular thing you always hear all the time to excuse or defend or counter the problem of evil or the problem of suffering more broadly, but particularly focusing on human actions, evil caused by human actors and agents. This doesn't address natural evil at all. It's actually a much stronger rebuke, in my view, but I'm focusing, for the sake of this argument, on human-caused evil, human-caused harm, human-caused violence, human sin in their language and parlance. The reason this has to exist is because of free will. You always hear this. We were given free will to act as we want. We must have free will. All suffering, all pain, all murders, genocides, Holocaust, slavery, everything in human history is necessary, is a necessary evil of sorts for the greater good of having free will. We absolutely need this free will thing, according to them, or else life would just be utterly awful. So all this awfulness and misery we see that humans do, like keeping your daughter locked in a cellar for 20 years and raping her and impregnating her constantly and then raping the children, like the case of Elizabeth Fritzl in Austria. That just has to happen because we need free will. According to them. It's still bad, it's still a sin, it's still morally reprehensible and repugnant, but it's still better than not having the freedom. First, I would just argue from science that libertarian free will is pretty much just a non-starter at this point in our development and knowledge of the physics of the material universe and the laws of causation, cause and effect. And human beings are part of that, and we are determined already by so many variables and factors, from where we were born, our cultures, our genetic makeup, how those genes are expressed, the epigenetic influences or changes from the environment, interactions with our environment, shaping our behavior, our psychology, all the way down to the neurons, the synapses, hormone levels. What was the levels of glucocorticoids, stress hormones, minute prior, a second prior. And you can just like keep tracing back the steps. And what was the prior brain state neurobiologically? 1 second before, 1 minute before. What goes into, we make a choice, but what drives that choice? We have these competitive drives and urges, and one wins out over the other, but and overpowers the other. And we have this, and we know this with studies with fMRIs on people who are diagnosed as psychopaths and sociopaths, that they have less activity in their prefrontal cortex in areas associated with empathy and emotional intelligence, or relating emotionally to other people. Areas like the ventromedial frontal cortex and the anterior cingulate cortex. There's less activity, and sometimes direct brain damage, direct injury, traumatic head injury will damage the frontal cortex. And then you see these resulting character psychological changes drastically, or sometimes it happens when they're young children. And you can combine that with all kinds of other external, unchosen factors like abuse, domestic violence, sexual assault, and all this. And see this decreased activity of the neurons in that part of the brain, which is involved in emotional impulse regulation, and what we would call self-control is basically inhibited. Part of our brains that sort of think ahead and calculate, well, what should I, and are involved in basically morality itself, doing moral questions. Well, should I do this? What are the consequences? What are the effects? What are the legal ramifications on me, on others? All this has been broken down in these people. Where, so like, you'd have to at least concede, oh, our free will can be diminished and mitigated and lessened to very significant degrees by the neurophysiology and structures, anatomical structures and regions of our brains, and certain genetics, certain genes are linked to greater levels of aggression in people. Certain endocrine things, like just being born male with all this testosterone, it's like limits your free will. You're automatically, usually, more aggressive and more apt to initiate violence, initiate fights, be more abusive and all this stuff, and from the presence of this testosterone molecule that you didn't choose at all. You didn't choose to be born with the XY chromosome, and so there's more determinism and mental mood disorders, illnesses that affects regulations of emotions and all this, and I can go on and on and on. You have to at least concede and take the compatibilist position. Just total, unmitigated, unobstructed free will. It just, in human beings, in animals, in biological systems in general, just cannot exist. So, like, that's one defeater. You can just reject the very existence of libertarian free will in the first place. As probably the vast majority, 99% of neuroscientists and physicists do. But But let's even just grant, for the sake of argument, okay, yes, we do have free will. I still don't get in principle how it would be impossible to make us very well-behaved, nice, kind, considerate, compassionate, empathetic, non-violent, non-aggressive, individuals, and yet still retain freedom, free will. To say that couldn't be done or couldn't work, well, you're arguing for an omnipotent, all-powerful God who can essentially do anything. He could have made us in any possible way, so ergo, yes, it could perfectly well have been that we are these near perfect beings and are free at the same time, because we lack the very desire or the very motivations psychologically, these deep ancient monkey brain parts of us we're just so radically evolved beyond that we just are like super intelligences or something. We are post-human. We can look back on the things we do now the same way we look back on medieval torture, but I think this whole idea that if we didn't have free will, we'd be robots, is sort of incomplete, incorrect, or just begs the question in a way, and you can sort of say, well, what would really be wrong or bad about us being robots? It's like, if we didn't know we were robots, would it actually be bad? It's sort of as an epistemological question, like if we didn't know, like I'd argue we kind of already are sort of robots, but people don't seem to care all that much, or be suffering in extreme existential angst. And God itself, being all perfect, would have to be a sort of robot or automaton leaving aside omniscience and or foreknowledge, meaning that this God would know exactly what it was going to do in the future in every possible way, and would have to act accordingly, or else its foreknowledge, complete infallible foreknowledge, would be wrong, and that sort of makes God determined and bound by causal laws itself. But let's just say God is free. God cannot do evil or want to do evil. That the desire, the want is just not there in God or in Jesus when he was a human on earth. Supposedly he was fully God and fully man, but let's leave aside that weirdness and just, they say he was completely without sin, sinless, utterly sinless, the only human who could not ever sin. Well then, did he have free will? I mean, or did he not have free will then? It's like the very existence of God and Jesus having free will and being completely unable by their own psychology or essence to have any sort of urges or inclinations to cause violence, to cause hurting, to cause distress, or be sinful. There's sort of just that itself negates the free will theodicy, I think, but anyway. Like, you could also say this thought experiment is ideal that I just thought of myself, but I don't think I didn't originally think of this ideal, but then I thought how it applied to this free will apologetic. It's like we must have free will, this ability to do otherwise, this ability to act on our impulses, to act in accordance, to act against what is moral and what is ethical and virtuous. We just must have this. This is essential to being human. So I wonder if we came up with some kind of pharmacological, therapeutic medication, substance, a pill that you give people, and you voluntarily take this, or you give it to people as children. And this is kind of in the book The Giver to an extent. They give the children these medication that suppresses their sexual drives and libido. Essentially everyone in that book is asexual or made asexual. But you could give people a pill that works on the areas of the brain involved in these aggression areas like the amygdala, and or fixes or enhances the prefrontal cortex to such a degree that we're just so logical and so empathetic and so like utilitarian and going out of our way to avoid all harm, like a Janist, and or we could it just, these pills, this intervention just eliminates desire for things like rape, killing. You would just become repulsed by the very ideal, like many of us already are, but we would just give this to everyone so that it would never arise. Murderous impulses, anger. You couldn't get above a certain anger threshold. You wouldn't want revenge. You wouldn't want to steal. It's basically kind of like a Clockwork Orange, where they put Alex DeLarge through the Ludovico technique and condition him through sort of operant, Skinner-like behaviorism techniques, so that he's like repulsed and sickened by any kind of, he's this juvenile delinquent running around, beating up homeless people, breaking in and raping and causing all kinds of hooliganism, but they get rid of all that with this new pharmaceutical, medical technology and therapy sort of thing. And what if we, like, to me, we as a society, they would be saying, yeah, this is great. I mean, this is amazing. This is one of the greatest breakthroughs science could ever do, to get rid of these harmful aspects, these negative attributes, all these things that we consider bad and horrible about human nature. And you could even take like pedophilia. Like there's obvious neurobiological structures, and they've done MRI scans of those who are pedophiles, and there's pedophiles who don't actually offend. People don't sometimes think pedophile and child molester are the exact same thing, but there's regions of the brain associated with sexual attraction going on differently. There's some kind of abnormality in parts of the brain. Some have looked at certain sizes of the amygdala, I think. I did read one paper, but I'd have to reread and look more into the evidence, the neuroscience of pedophilia, whatever. Like, what if we had some kind of pill that just eliminated that, that fixed that, or surgery, that fix that. They've actually done surgeries on people trying to fix epilepsy, but actually ended up something slipped and hit some kind of brain region and actually caused the person to develop a sexual attraction for children, and he became addicted to child pornography. And this person was greatly normal before then, only happened post-surgery. So there's some way, there's something going on in the brain's neuroanatomy that we can actually affect and cause people to become pedophiles. There's something going on in there naturalistically occurring. Biologically, genetically, something. What if we could cure that? What if we could give pedophiles these pills, and or these very successful neurosurgeons could do this or that and completely suppress or repress that urge? They no longer have the desire, and thus would not act and cause any harm or assault children, because the very urge and that strong, irresistible, in many cases, impulse to have sexual relations, those underage, would be eliminated. That'd be like, great. Wow, we found a cure to this. We can actually help these people. I mean, the suffering that would be averted and prevented from such a thing. Unbelievable. You'd get the Nobel Prize. But that would be controlling and repressing and eliminating the person's free will, technically. So wouldn't that be wrong? Under this view, God gave us free will, we must have free will, blah, 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 blah. We would be kind of turning people into something they were not. Made as, to put it crudely, it did not originally develop as. But it seems to me there's a huge problem there, because if we absolutely must have free will in this sort of technology, this sort of using surgery, pills, transcranial, magnetic stimulation, whatever, to get rid of pedophilia or all these different aberrant desires and impulses and blah 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 would be wrong, because we'd be interfering with their free will. Thus we'd be going against God's infallible, all-knowing plan We always say, we can't question God. God made this the way it is because it had to be this way. And God's ways are not ways. Who we challenge God? Well, and God wanted us to have free will, so we could not do that. We just have to leave things exactly the way they are. Any modifications, genetic modification, psychological modification, manipulation, rehabilitation, any of these ways that would in any way constrain or reduce our free will is like going against the ultimate plan and the ultimate best possible world that God has designed, blah, blah, blah. It just seems very counterintuitive to me. I can't accept that. And then you get this, I just came up with a scenario just like, I'm God in this instance. Like, I'm walking down the street and a woman is being assaulted, is being raped. I'm a very powerful person. Let's to sort of take on the omnipotence attribute. I know this is causing great suffering to this woman, trauma to this woman, harm, suffering is being endured right here because of this rapist. I have a gun I could go up to and either say, stop that right now, or he's about to do it and I say, stop right now, or if it doesn't stop, I shoot the fucker. But no, under this free will view, everything must work according to God's will and plan, whatever. I shouldn't actually do anything. I should just stand there. Well, I can't interfere or intervene on this guy's free will. His free will takes precedence over the victim, of course. I have to let this take its course. I'd be violating his free will. I can't stop it. This is the way things have to be. I could, but I just can't. And I walk away. That's basically God. And this God is good? Fuck off. I think that's enough for now. Check in later and I'll probably be making another video about different aspects of theism and religion and how God is bullshit in all these other different ways. So, see ya.